I love that the story of the old man has come full circle and has become the young daughter. Ah, like father, like daughter. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. The final episode of season 2 of The Old Man is here. They just do Roman numerals, so there's no name, but it's 15. As I had sort of suggested in the last video, once we realized that Emily was alive, they were probably going to show us the angle from the other side of that phone call to see what it was that kept Emily alive. And that is exactly how this episode opens. Parwana, Emily, Angela, you pick how you want to call her. We're seeing the other side of the call that she had with Chase when she tells him to get off the speakerphone, don't find me, let this go, accept this, let this be. What then occurs is that the Russian officers come into this bunker that they're sort of hiding in and immediately shoot off. Well, she fires first, but Parwana's aunt, Hamzat's sister, fires off at the Russian officers. They fire back and she's dead. First, immediately gone. It sucks that we built so much character for her and she's immediately killed. And then they start going through all the people that are in this bunker to say who's Hamzat, who's associated with Hamzat, who's Hamzat. It's at that point that Emily stands up and says, "Look, none of these folks have anything to do with Hamzat. I am right now the only person who has any of the information that you're looking for, the weapons, all that stuff. I am Hamzat. There's no one else. The only other person that was here, you just killed her, and so I'm the only person that can help you." And so they take her away, lock her up to extract, just get information from her. And we see a series of her doing her best things to sort of make the guards a little more trusting of her. She's using some of those fine CIA operative maneuvers to make them feel at ease. And so there's a young man officer who keeps bringing her food. His name is Pavel, I believe. He is sort of taken aback by the fact that she knows Russian. And so he's like, "Wait, you know Russian?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." "Why haven't you spoken before?" It's like, "I was nervous. I was scared." Basically unarming herself so that he still feels like he's in control, but her basically creating a bridge that he's going to let his guard down eventually. He asks, like, "Wait a minute, you're American, you speak Russian, but your family is here." He's kind of like, "Well, that's a lot of boxes that you check off and a lot of things that you can do." But she is forthright giving him information. Now, I believe that she's giving him information just enough to sort of hang him on a carrot. I think they have moved things around in this village so that wherever she leads them to is a small enough of a version to let them continue to believe that she is on the up and up and giving them the correct information. She gives them spots where their weapons are, where their money is, where some food is, just enough to sort of satiate them, but also to get them on the hook to say, "Hey, I want more. I want you to give me more." And so Pavel's commander, his boss, sends him in there with some food and a bottle of tequila, Russian vodka. It's tequila. It's Russian. Clearly, it's vodka. To sort of say, "Thank you. Your tips have worked. We're working out, but we want more." And she's like, "Well, I don't need your food. I don't need this. I will give you this as long as it keeps my people safe. As long as you're not harming anyone and you bring all the pain to me, I'll give you whatever it is you want." Yeah. She starts writing down on a pad the names, if you will. She probably just putting down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Um, at that point, Pavel's looking down, and she takes the bottle of vodka and cracks him over the head with it. And then she goes in, and it's clear that she had this sort of set up because she's not alone. In this, she just probably opens up a back door to let people in, say, "Hey, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give them a couple of things. They're going to let the guards down. I'm going to find my opportunity to escape, and I'm going to open up a door, and you come in and clean this out." And so That's what happens, and they regain control of the mines. That message then gets to Marion, who we pick up the scene with Marion and Harold. Well, Marion's on the phone. Harold's like, "Well, what's that?" He's like, "Well, the mines have just been taken over." And he's like, "Well, by who?" He's like, "I don't know. Some contingent of people over there have sort of uprised and taken over the mines from the Russians." Harold calls BS and like, "Look, you know more than what you're letting on. Who who is doing this? Who's responsible for this? Who's done it?" And it's like, "Well, they said there's an American there, American woman." That point that Harold clicks and is like, "Oh crap, Angela's still alive." Harold then starts going into a spin mode and like, "I'll do whatever you want. I'll connect you two together. I'll do whatever you need to do, but I need you to get Angela out of there, and I need you to give me where Pavlovich is so that we can take him off the board, because that is where Julian and Zoe are heading. Julian and Zoe are headed to the location of wherever Pavlovich is." Marion's like, "Well, hold on. A second ago, you were like, you don't want me anywhere near your daughter, and now you're like, let's go ahead and make this happen." Complete about face, and it's clearly he is trying to do things to self preserve himself. Um, Marion kind of just calls him out. It's like, "Look, I admire and hated the fact that you lived in absolutes," and then he's like, "I hate the fact that you didn't. Not everything is a 100% this, 100% that. There's a lot of gray area in all of this." And so um, Harold is like, "I got a couple of minutes before my folks get to the compound. Are we doing this or are we not?" So he's on the phone with Julian as they arrive to the compound where Pavlovich is, and Marion is on the phone with some of the guards that are at this consulate, where different nations are, and the Chinese guards are being told to stand down. He's like, "Okay, she's just giving them the heads up that you guys are arriving. They're going to allow you to go through undetected. Pavlovich's men don't know you're here. You got 15 minutes." And like this compound is surrounded. There's about 70 people guards here with guns and earpieces. They ready to just fire off. They're not going to make it through there without some help. And so Marion makes the call to say, "Hey, stand down." And so they got 15 minutes to get to Pavlovich's area, his bunker, and she gives them the direct directions to where that is, and gives them the heads up. There's only about 7 guards with him. And Julian's like, "Okay, cool, I got it." So he gets out of the car. He tells Zoe to stand down. Like, "You stay here." She's like, "What can I do? What can I do?" He's like, "Nothing. Stay here. Don't move." Um, she gets on comms as well. And so he's on comms with her as he goes through. And they're letting him through. No one is touching him. No one is doing anything. He is allowed to get through. He makes it to the bunker where Pavlovich is. He kills 2 guards immediately. At that point, when the gunfire happens, he takes out one silently first, then the other one comes up, and he doesn't really have time to keep it quiet, so he has to shoot them. So therefore, gunfire goes off. Once the gunfire goes off, 2 guards that are also with his detail start running towards that compound. Now everybody else is still standing still, like they heard no gunshots. Like, gunfire. What's the weather today? That's literally how they're acting. Zoe sees those 2 running and gives Julian the heads up, like, "Hey, you got 2 more folks coming." He's like, "All right, got it." Now, mind you, Julian was going here to kill everybody, but basically to kill Pavlovich, but like not leave anybody alive. Zoe has sort of asked him, "Hey, can you keep one, because we need to find out where Dan is? Because remember, Dan's in a bad way. He's got that neurotoxin coursing through his body, and so and there's no antidote. So he is not well for this world at all." So she's asked Julian, "Hey, can you keep one of them alive?" She was like, "I'll try. I'll do my best." He goes through, he finds Pavlovich, he takes him out. And Pavlovich is like, "Do you know who I am?" He's like, "Yeah, you're the guy who killed the old man, and I'm the guy who killed you." And he kills him. Real simple, out of the way. He then radios back to Zoe, like, "Hey, I got one alive. I can bring him down." And Zoe's like, "Nah, I figured something else out." Because Zoe at this point has gotten out of the car, and the car that those 2 ran off from, who are part of the detail, she follows them and then looks up on their like OnStar or MapQuest or whatever the hell they have, to see their last location. And so she finds it and then just heads off until she finds Dan. While she's heading off, Harold and um, and Marion are having a follow up conversation, and they're like, "Well, thank you." Um, and it's at this point that I immediately was like, "Hold on," and I already sort of had kind of grasped onto this, but there's no way that Marion's not going to do this and still not try to get her hooks in on Angela. Like, especially now that she knows, like, she was of the impression, and this is what everybody was, that Angela was dead. And so that there was no way to sort of use her as the person to sort of lock in to get a hold of those minerals. There's no way to do that. She's dead. It is what it is. I'll do this as a favor. But now I know she's alive. And so I will grease this palm. I will do what it is that you are asking of me, Harold. I will go ahead and kill Pavlovich, get him off the board, and I will do what I can to sort of usurp all power and put that position on me, where I'm the top dog, where I'm the one running things. So I'm sorry I'm doing this to you, Harold, but I'm gonna have to take you in under hostage because I can't get to Dan. Dan might be dead. The only other person that Angela, if she is alive, is going to want, you just said that she's like your daughter. The only other person that she's going to want to protect and get a hold of and save is you. So maybe I can use you as a bargaining chip to sort of get my way in to get that connection with Parwana. So, yeah, Harold has wound up saving Dan and Angela, but now he's in a bad way. He's put himself in a very precarious situation. Those officers take him off, and that's the last that we see of Harold in this season. Zoe makes her way to Dan. He's not breathing, faintly breathing. Julian says, "Go ahead and administer the antidotes. Give him all three, and then a vial of the yellow, whatever the yellow tube is, just to try to get this stuff coursing through him." Still no reaction. She then starts administering CPR, and then the next thing we see is that he is getting bed rest in a remote location that is unknown to anybody. Wink, wink. That was one of Morgan Boat's safe houses. And he starts getting up immediately, like, "We got to get up out of here. We got to be on the move." She's like, "No, we're perfectly fine here. No one knows that we're here. The only person that knows we're here are you, me, and Julian." And Dan calls her out immediately. It was like, there's one more. She's like, "Yes, I have reached out to my son. My son knows where we're at." Now, that immediately flagged to me that that's a problem. But they are under the belief that Angela is dead. So the only person that would have connections to her being um, not Marsha Dixon and Zoe is Angela. But if they believe that Angela's dead, they have nothing to worry about. Like, cool, we're fine. Yeah, she ain't dead. So, oh boy. Um, we then see a lot of Dan and Zoe living their like domesticated life. They're sitting on the porch, chilling. It's clear that both of them kind of like this life, and it's definitely clear that that Dan does, and probably doesn't want to really let that go. But he is still a bit on edge. But he's losing some of that edginess that allowed him to sort of think outside the box, be on alert. Zoe keeps going to this coffee shop to sort of do these remote calls to her son. And they're pretty long calls, long enough for someone to trace them. Hint, hint. And so eventually, after a bit of a back and forth, we even see a moment where Dan forgets that his glasses are on his head. Like, he's a feral, he's been defanged a little bit. He likes this domesticated life. But then a package arrives, and the box has nothing but a phone and a phone number in it. He calls the number, and the next scene we see is of Zoe and Dan arriving at a diner where Angela, Parwana, Emily is waiting for them, and you can see emotions happen for Dan. Emily shows a little bit of emotion, but there's an end game for her there, so she's not there quite to be as um, reunion based as Dan is. Dan introduces Emily to Zoe, Zoe to Emily. Obviously, Emily already sort of knows a little bit about Zoe as we learn in this, but it comes down in a back and forth that, hey, uh, I will tell you how I got out of that situation at another time, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for now. So I need your help, Dad. I need you to help me find Harper. You guys have probably been isolated enough and you don't know it, but Harold's missing. Harold's been gone for a while, and they want the person that's in charge of all the mineral deposits to sort of come and have a meeting with Marion. Like that's what they're looking for. That's what they want. And Dan's like, well, who's that? He's like, I am. I am Parwana Hamzat. I have all of that at my disposal. In fact, I have it all at my disposal so much that I am the king pingpin of all of this. And so whatever I ask for, people typically give me. And so I'm asking you now, Dad, I need your help. I need you to unlock that other cheat code, that other skin you have, and give me Lou Barlow. And Zoe keeps asking, like, well, who's Lou Barlow? Because remember, this is a name that came up when they were on their espionage mission to try to get that meeting with Nina. I think Nina, yeah, the lawyer. He's like, who's Lou? Who's Lou? Who's Lou? He's like, we're not going to talk about Lou. It's at that point that Emily gives them that Lou is Dan. That's another alias that Dan has. But Lou is a far more dangerous person than Dan Chase, which is mind-boggling to me. Like violence is not the thing that Lou Barlow was about. Like, I'm okay, what was he doing? Like I am sort of intrigued and hooked to see what in the blue hell Lou Barlow was doing that makes him a worse alias than whatever Dan Chase was doing. But she's like, no, I need you to bring me out Lou Barlow. And he's like, no, there's other ways to do this. I will help you. I will do whatever it is that you ask of me, Emily. I will go to the moon and back. But let's leave that piece locked. Let's do it this way. She's like, no. That's not what I want. I need the best version of you. I need the doll. I need that one. And she's like, well, hold on. Is the reason you're not giving me this because you don't have that anymore, or because you don't want to see yourself go down that level? Or is it because you don't want to show her that? Speaking in Zoe's, like you don't want to show Zoe who you can become. Which is interesting because Zoe has sort of gone back and forth this whole season with like, am I going too dark? Am I not? And I think this domestication piece that they sort of have has allowed them both to say, hey, we're going to let that go. Now they're jumping headfirst back into it because Emily's not giving them too much of a choice. As Dan sort of balks at the idea and says, I'll help, we start seeing a bunch of headlights arrive. Those headlights are of the FBI. And Emily Parwana, I'm going to call her that for now because that's where she's leaning towards. Parwana is saying that, hey, I am in a position now where if I ask for something, the FBI helps me. Such in the case is when I know Zoe's reaching out to her son, I can tap that phone and I can find out your location. So all in all, they would have been fine had it just stayed between Julian, Dan, and Zoe to that location. They never would have been found. Her reaching out to have that one connection with her son is what eventually did them in. But they're there to collect them all, take them on a chopper now, and get to work. Like, we got to go get to work and get Harold now. And so that is how this all kind of comes to a close, is that the tables have turned. Parwana is now the new Hamzat, but she's doing it for a reason, to say, I need to go save my other dad. He has saved both of us. We owe this to him. We need to go get him. And so a lot of the devious maneuvering that Dan has sort of always done, we got to see Emily, Angela / Parwana do that in this episode, from sort of making that Russian officer feel at ease enough to start putting his head down when she's around and get cracked over the head, for her to control that, to her to control the deposits enough to lock in, to know that, hey, I need to use this to become more so I can find out Dan, because I can't do this on my own. But Lou Barlow, that version of my dad, oh, he about that life. He can do this. So she's doing everything, working all these machinations to make sure that she can get a hold of Harper. Because for her, She's already lost one dad. She has three dads. She's already lost one. If she can keep those other two nearby, she's going to do whatever possible. She's going to leave no stone unturned to make sure that that Harold is brought back. As a whole, this season's good. There are ups and downs. I think this is sort of the growth, the maturation of whoever Angela is. I will I will say that Angela Parwana went from a character that I had zero care for in that first season to somebody like, oh, she's a bad mother. Like I want to know everything about her. So I'm in for that. Um, Outside of the bottle episode that happened in the home, and outside of a couple of pieces like the stuff that Zoe and them had when they were looking for the lawyer, that those two episodes, Jeff Bridges didn't quite work as well. Some of it because he's this isn't his story. This season is her story, and so it's the two dads going after him. I think the stuff that he had the first two episodes where he had a lot of scenes with John Lithgow, those worked a lot. And then they separate, and so there's a lot of him with Zoe. And like for me, I had already sort of seen that, and I don't think I just care so much about their story as much as I do when it was Harold and Dan, or Dan and Emily, or Harold and Emily. The Harold and Marion and the Dan and Zoe pieces of this I didn't have as much interest in. Some of that is because Marion I just hadn't had any type of connection with before. But all in all together, it tells a great story to sort of see the rise of who Parwana is. As Hamzat falls, out of the ashes, this new one comes, but who still has an attachment to America. And as Marion said, is probably the most dangerous person in the world, who is an American asset, who knows CIA intelligence, who can speak every language you can think of, and knows the ways to do some dirty stuff. And for her to go, I need the worst version of you, Dad. She's ready to unlock pure hell to go find Harper. I'm here for it. So I hope, I don't know if anything's been picked up for season 3. I'm not sure yet, but I hope it does because I would like to watch that. If nothing else, to sort of see Dan/Lou unleashed. What did you guys think about this season of The Old Man? Do you like the rise of sort of Parwana? What did you guys think? Or leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at hollywoodrddigit@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.